Explain it to me, Joe. I want you to explain it to me. Why the sudden move to ban TikTok?
Mark Zuckerberg is insane. If he thinks that the ban on TikTok is going to bring all those customers back to him. Look, the ban is looking likely. Let's just say it out loud.
The United States government is threatening to ban TikTok again. Is it because it poses a national security threat from China, or is it because other social media platforms such as Facebook and Instagram want to wipe out their major competitor? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany Janae. I'm an attorney, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the TikTok ban and finding out what the heck is going on. So let's get into it. TikTok is probably the #1 social media app that is being used worldwide. But since 2019, TikTok has been negotiating with the US government to address concerns about potential national security risks posed by the platform. So many politicians are pushing for it to be banned because of concerns that the app could be infiltrated by the Chinese government to essentially spy on us American users or gain access to US user data.
Most downloaded app in the world, one of the most downloaded app in the world, is a social media company, TikTok. Could the Chinese government, through its ownership of ByteDance, that owns ByteDance US, if they wanted to, and ByteDance US were willing to cooperate or forced to cooperate, could they use TikTok to control data on millions of users?
Yes.
Could they use it to control the software on millions of devices, given the opportunity to do so?
Yes.
Could they use it to drive narratives, like to divide Americans against each other? For example, let's say China wants to invade Taiwan, to make sure that Americans are seeing videos arguing why Taiwan belongs to China and why the U.S. should not intervene?
Yes, and I would make the point on that last one in particular that we're not sure that we would see many of the outward signs of it happening if it was happening. And I think the most fundamental piece that cuts across every one of those risks and threats that you mentioned that I think Americans need to understand is that something that's very sacred in our country, the difference between the private sector and the public sector, that's a line that is non-existent in the way the CCP operates.
Do you think it's valuable to look at how TikTok operates in China versus the U.S.? For example, in the U.S., kids are being encouraged to choke themselves out. We've had kids die in China. They're encouraged to focus on math and science and building the country. Is that an example of how two different versions of TikTok, one feeding our society poison and the other inculcating positive values, an example of how potentially or in reality TikTok could be used to damage our country?
I think those are among many sort of telling indicators that we should be looking at in assessing the national security concerns this poses.
So they can collect our data, manipulate information, poison the minds and feed garbage into the minds of millions of people and so forth. Given the threat, I imagine this is the reason why TikTok is no longer allowed on federal devices pretty soon. No federal devices can have TikTok on it, correct?
Well, certainly at the FBI, TikTok never has been and nor will it be approved, and I think it's my understanding that that's about to be in place across the entire federal government.
So given the weight of all this, does anyone in the panel disagree that TikTok is not a good thing for America? Well, if no one disagrees, my question is then, if TikTok is bad for America, and we've talked about all these disadvantages and potential harm that's caused by it, should the fact that it is popular among people under the age of 35 be the reason why we don't take strong action against it?
Not from my perspective.
Others have raised concerns over the possibility that the Chinese government could use the app to spread propaganda to a U.S. audience, but the ultimate concern is any company doing business in China falls under the Chinese Communist Party laws. American social media platforms are subjected to the U.S. jurisdiction and U.S. laws, while Chinese social media platforms are subjected to the Chinese laws. Authorized by Section 721 of the Defense Production Act, the Committee on Foreign Investments in the United States, also known as CFIUS, screens foreign investments in the United States for national security risk, has been in multiple conversations with TikTok to discuss a deal that would address the U.S. government security concerns while also allowing TikTok to continue to operate in America without sale by its parent company, ByteDance. Also, it may be good to mention that ByteDance is a tech company that's headquartered in Beijing and it is TikTok's parent company. So failure of TikTok to reach an agreement with the U.S. government could ultimately cause for TikTok to be banned or required to sell off a majority of the stake in the company. While CFIUS and TikTok have been discussing potential agreements, on December 13th of 2022, some members of Congress introduced a new bill to ban TikTok and ByteDance from operating in the United States. So the name of the bill, and it's a long one, is Averting the National Threat of Internet Surveillance, Oppressive Censorship and Influence, and Algorithmic Learning by the Chinese Communist Party, or the Anti-Social CCP Act for short. The bill's stated purpose is to protect Americans from the threat posed by certain foreign adversaries using current or potential future social media companies that those foreign adversaries control to surveil Americans, learn sensitive data about Americans, or spread influence campaigns, propaganda, and censorship. It defines terms such as entity of concern and establishes a list of criteria that would indicate a foreign social media platform is unduly subjected to a foreign adversarial governance control. It also lists countries of concerns beyond China, such as North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, and Russia. I feel like I said a mouthful. I just needed a water break. Okay, so let's get back into this proposed legislation. Shall we? Okay. So, this new bill directs the President of the United States, hey Joe.
We did it, Joe.
To effectively ban certain foreign social media companies from operating in the United States. More specifically, ByteDance and TikTok. And based on how this legislation or this proposed bill is written, it is broadly written, and it calls for a ban that could theoretically expand to the future to cover other foreign social media platforms that may be deemed a risk to the U.S. national security. The bill also states that 30 days after it is enacted, the president will use their powers under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA, to the extent to necessarily block and prohibit all transactions and all property and interest of property of a social media company as laid out in the bill. IEPA essentially allows the President of the United States to impose sanctions and embargoes on foreign entities when the President deems there is a national emergency with U.S. interests at stake. Former President Donald Trump invoked this authority in August of 2020 when he issued an executive order to ban TikTok in the United States. But this proposed bill would exempt the president from 50 U.S.C. Statute 1701 and 1702 Section B of the IEPA, meaning that the president would not have to declare a national emergency before invoking the IEPA, which is required under 1701, and would not be constrained by the prohibitions of 1702 Section B on regulating the import or export of information or informational materials, among others. So earlier in the video, I mentioned the bill defined entities of concerns and countries of concerns. According to the bill, for a social media company to qualify for this blocking and prohibition, it must satisfy at least one of the following criteria. The company is domiciled, headquartered, or has its principal place of business in or is organized under the laws of a country of concern. A country or an entity of concern directly or indirectly owns, controls with the ability to decide important matters, or holds 10% or more of the company's voting shares or stocks. The company uses software algorithms that are controlled or whose export is controlled by a country or entity of concern. A country or entity of concern can substantially, directly, or indirectly influence the company to be either A, share data on the U.S. citizens, or B, modify its content moderation practices. The bill explicitly states that ByteDance and TikTok are deemed companies that satisfy these criteria. So the bill also defines a country of concern, and it states that foreign adversary in the Secure and Trusted Communications Network Act of 2019. According to that 2019 legislation, a foreign adversary is defined as any foreign government or foreign non-government person engaged in a long-term pattern or serious instances of conduct significantly adverse to the national security of the United States or security and safety of the United States persons. In this respect, the bill names the People's Republic of China administrative regions of Hong Kong, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, and Venezuela. This bill lays out a set of definitions and criteria that could be applied to other foreign social media platforms in the future. Security concerns about foreign tech companies are clearly not going away anytime soon, which means that it is very important for our legislators to drive substantial, nuanced risk assessment frameworks that help distinguish between what is real security risk and situations where risks are conflated and responses are not properly tailored. So, in efforts to reach an agreement with the United States government and to mitigate the risk of national security threats, TikTok has developed or is in the process of developing Project Texas. Not much is really known about Project Texas due to the company wishing to keep its ideas confidential at this time. However, the cornerstone feature of Project Texas is a new subsidiary, TikTok US Data Security, USDS. TikTok established USDS in the summer of 2022, and this entity houses the functions of TikTok's businesses that are likely to give rise to national security concerns, such as access to U.S. citizen data and decisions on content moderation. It will be governed by an independent board of directors, which TikTok will nominate and CFIUS will review. The board will report to CFIUS and not to ByteDance or to the global TikTok entity. Oracle will oversee data entering the entity and data exiting the entity so as to ensure that the data flows do not pose national security risks. USDS will house TikTok teams that will assess US user data, access TikTok software code, backend systems, or moderate content on the platform. By design, it will replicate several of the core functions of TikTok's global businesses. For instance, it will have a separate HR team that will be responsible for hiring and managing the U.S. personnel. Additional teams housed in USDS will include engineering, user and product operations, privacy operations, trust and safety, legal threats, detections and responses, and security risk and compliance. Functions that do not require handling U.S. user data, such as public policy and marketing, won't be brought into the USDS. And according to the briefing, about half of the TikTok's U.S. employees base has already been moved into the USDS. As a part of the security agreement with TikTok, CFIUS will specify requirements for hiring a USDS. Anyone working for USDS must either be a U.S. citizen or they will hold a green card. Either way, USDS will notify the United States government of any potential USDS employee, and the government will have the ability to conduct additional background checks on any potential employee and deny USDS the ability to hire the individual. Oracle Cloud will host a TikTok platform in the United States, including the algorithm and the content moderation functions. It will be responsible for monitoring data flowing into the USDS and out of the USDS to ensure that no data is illicitly transit to the USDS boundary. All US data traffic will be routed through the Oracle Cloud, and TikTok stated that all US user data is already stored in the Oracle Cloud. So it is also important for me to mention that TikTok did invite several individuals, a bunch of people, I'm assuming, to do a briefing. And so throughout my course of researching information, I was able to obtain information about the briefing that was held in Washington, where people were able to go in and ask questions and find out what is going on with this Project Texas to get more details than what the public actually knows. Recently, Meta announced they are putting a pause on paying content creators for their Reels, which caused a lot of controversy. The program paid creators monthly for accruing views through Reels, and over the past 2 years, some creators have reported getting offered bonuses of about $35,000 in a single month for getting more than 58 million views. That's a lot of money for some views. Okay. A lot of people believe that Instagram Reels were created to compete with the TikTok short videos. As TikTok grew more popular and gained more attention, it started paying content creators for their short attention-grabbing videos. According to those who are content creators of both Instagram and TikTok, the TikTok algorithm is organic. Meanwhile, Instagram is not so much, and in many ways, the Reels do not get nearly as many views as TikTok. Meta has tried imitating TikTok in a number of ways, from including more recommended content and feeds to turning every short video posted to Instagram into a reel. Instagrammers in particular were as a whole not too happy about the rapid changes, and further reports questioned just how much its users were interested in short form video. However, in order to keep up with modern times, you have to evolve, and that is in every aspect of life, whether it's business or your personal life. So we all know Instagram started off as a fun app to share pictures to your followers, but within the last several years, many changes were implemented, such as the metaverse, but more specifically these Reels. They were created in an attempt to compete with TikTok. And according to an article that was released in August of 2022, Reels watch time are 17 million hours a day, but on TikTok, users spend 200 million hours a day. And that is more than 10 times the amount of users that are on TikTok than Instagram or Meta. However, Meta says that information is dated. In another article that was released, Meta Reels engagement had fallen about 13% around August of 2022, and most users have no engagement. There have also been content creators that have said if they do not create original content for Instagram, then Instagram will downrank their reposted content, and they will not allow the creators to get as many views as they would have if the content would have been original. Since summer of 2021, Meta announced they were going to pay their content creators more than $1 billion in funds through 2022, which is a lot more than TikTok. But as of 2022, Meta has only paid $120 million, but Meta has yet again said this information is dated. However, Meta generates more ad revenue per user than TikTok. Meta generates more than $21 billion a year in ad revenue, and TikTok only brings in $3 billion. Meta is struggling to keep the perception of their social media applications positive because according to a Meta survey, only 1/5 of Instagram users think the company cares about them, and 45% of the users think Meta is not good for the world. So you guys, I have said a lot in this video as it pertains to Project Texas, this proposed bill, legislation, CFIUS in talks with the TikTok CEOs and the big guys behind the scenes of trying to create an agreement where it is safe for us Americans to use this application. And also, is Facebook and Instagram a little bit jealous of TikTok because TikTok is really killing the game when it comes to social media right now. When it comes to paying its content creators getting more views when they post on TikTok and having a bigger reach, a bigger engagement, larger audience. What do you guys think? Or do y'all even really care that the Chinese government could be potentially spying on us? Like, do you really care? Because I mean, truth be told, our apps like with Facebook and TikTok essentially are listening to us. I feel like they are listening to us, especially when it pertains to ads, but that's a whole nother video for a different day, child. I'm just saying. But we are a lot more knowledgeable as it pertains to all of these legislations, laws, and really like what the heck has been going on. And one thing I did not mention earlier is that a limited ban on TikTok has been enacted for the last couple of months, where Joe Biden did sign a limited TikTok ban, which will ban TikTok from being used on government devices such as their phones. College campuses cannot watch TikTok videos on the Wi-Fi on the college campus. So there has been some limitations on the TikTok as it pertains to bans. But I just want to say we are a lot more knowledgeable about what the heck is going on. And you guys already know we are now, legally pretty. So please like, comment, and subscribe, and really tell me what your thoughts are on this TikTok ban. Do you think it's really going to happen? Do you think that TikTok is really going to get banned? Well, I will say is that this will set a precedent if, this ban actually happens, or whether they reach this agreement. Either way, this is new, and I do enjoy making these little tech and law videos, and so I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!